Hey, welcome back to The Difference. If you're a business owner that is constantly looking to scale your revenue, then this conversation is going to be for you. One of the hardest things to do is to up your price and start actually getting paid what you are worth. And one of the things that I have found why we don't do that is because of fear of losing clients, fear of losing customers, fear of stepping on toes. So today, we are not only going to break down the mindset that's going to help you actually overcome and destroy those limiting beliefs, but then I'm going to give you 10 tactics that you can put into your business starting right now so that your revenue can increase and you can start serving at the capacity that you really want. So I got in The Difference today. My guy, Tony, you guys know him. So Tony heads up all of our social media, all of the dope graphics and stuff you see is what Tony does. And so Tony, man, we got an important topic to dive into today. How you feel?
Oh man, I feel good. I think this is something that I've even had a question for myself, and I've heard and I've seen you question like,
Right.
what the heck do we charge?
What do we charge?
What do we like?
What do
What's
we do?
like? And I think I love it because you're always asking, or I always hear you saying like, what value do you bring to the market?
Mm-hmm.
So I love that we're getting into this because I think it, I think it brings up a good point for anybody that is a entrepreneur, business owner, or whatever. So I'm excited, man.
So for anybody that's actually dove into the Difference podcast, I mean, first and foremost, you see that when we do interview people, we're interviewing 7-figure entrepreneurs and investors. Like, I think that, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later about why perception is such a key in determining reality, which goes back to how much you can charge. Like, there's a reason why when I start thinking about the people that I want to bring onto The Difference, why they have to hit a certain threshold.
Yep.
Like, you got to be 7, 8, or 9-figure entrepreneur or investor for a reason. So we'll dive into that. But what's really funny is if we just go back to a year ago, and if you guys heard the episode or watched the episode with Omar El Takori, like one of the things that we talked about on that episode was, just within 5 or 6 months of launching Think Life is Different, being able to get to a place to where you start to scale that if you continue on that pathway, you'll hit $1 million within a year, right?
Yeah.
And so, but a year ago, if we just rewind, personal story, we're in basically the beginning of June 2025. A year ago, I was trying to decide what I wanted to do with life, really, if I'm being honest with you, right?
Yeah.
And so this was probably 4 or 5 months even before we met each other. And I knew that I was going to be transitioning away from a business that I spent 13 years building to where it was doing over $30 million a year in revenue. That's a big business,
Yeah,
right?
heck yeah.
Or at least for a solo entrepreneur, that's a big business. And so now knowing that you have a shift in life, like what am I going to do? I got money in the bank. I have a business that is still going, like it's still going to this day. I'm not in the business, but it is still running, even though, I'm not necessarily in it, but just trying to figure out how do I want to serve people. And I feel like I have these different talents, right? Like I know leadership, I know speaking, I've spoken on stages, I know investing, I know how to start businesses. How do I actually want to serve people? So, I started looking at a lot of different business models. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I actually have a company in my back pocket that I started in 2019. I've done nothing with. We've just sold all of our books out of Think Life is Different. When I have paid speaking gigs, that goes through Think Life is Different.
Yeah.
But it wasn't something that I was looking to grow and scale. So about a year ago, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to take on a handful of financial clients, but I didn't know what to charge them. And I think about like how much I was charging one-on-one clients. I mean, people that I would be with multiple times a week, Tony,
Mm-hmm.
every week. And I think about what I charged them then because I didn't know the market and I was scared to ask for too much. I mean, and this is me, a guy that has over $300 million of sales in the last decade.
Wow.
A guy that sold over 50,000 books, a guy that went from broke to millionaire in 5.5 years, a guy that's bought millions of dollars of real estate. I'm scared to say, hey, pay me this much if you want my help. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's wild.
That was 12 months ago. So like the way that we've iterated in the last 12 months and have moved to a place to where not only do we feel called to ask for a higher price point, but I know that not only is it deserving, but the person on the other end of it is definitely getting their money's worth and getting a bigger part of, a bigger bite off of that bark, if for lack of better terms. So I mean, this is something that we see a lot of people struggle with. We see a lot of business owners, no matter what business they're in, we're just afraid, man. Why do you think we're so afraid and companies are so afraid to boost the price?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. Great question. I think I'm going to always speak for myself, right? I don't really compare myself to somebody that's brought in 300 million a year, but I would like to imagine that it's much deeper. Like, I think there's something similar between, like, amongst all of us, whether you make 300 mil, whether you make 3,000 in a year, whatever.
Sure.
I think it's that, it's that fear, man. It's that gripping fear where you're just, and some people don't like confrontation. Some people don't like having those uncomfortable conversations.
Right.
Money's already an uncomfortable topic as it is.
Sure.
And so, like, even for myself, like, I absolutely hate having to negotiate my worth.
Sure.
I do not like those conversations. Like, if I could just run it through somebody and, like, just say, hey, go talk to so-and-so, like, I'll just make sure I come and I just press record. Like, we're good.
Right.
So again, for me, it's definitely that internal fear of the fear of having those uncomfortable conversations, the fear of rejection. That's a big one for me.
Big one. Yeah.
Big one for me was fear of rejection, all the way down to when I was a little kid. And I think that that's what I meant by, like, it's deeper, right? And so there may not be a lot of similarities that I have with a millionaire.
Sure.
But I can say this, like, I can guarantee you there's something internally, right, that neither of us have dealt with on either end, right, or either spectrum, that will stop us, that will, like, just, whether you're a millionaire or you're not, like, this right here, if you do not learn to deal with this and get better at it, you're going to always have that fear and it's going to stop you.
What I have truly recognized in the last 7 months is what we're talking about happens on every single price point. My company before, the product that we sold or the program that we sold was only a $400 product. And I remember a lot of the sales reps that I would train up. Man, it would take such a long time to break so many concepts that they would have to sell a $400 product.
Yeah.
Now, some of our products are over $20,000, right? So on every price point, and we have friends in the industry, their products are 100,000 or more.
Yeah.
And then you'll have some companies that their products are 30 million or more. But on every price point, what I have found is people are struggling with upping the price.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's almost like there's this lid that we'll get close to the height of that lid and say, and we'll literally put these self-limiting sort of beliefs on ourselves.
It's wild.
With saying, we can't charge for more. In my previous company, I remember when I started out selling this product, it was $295. And then obviously with just years and inflation and different administrations, presidential administrations, and just Like we live in Southern California, so the market and where you're at, geographical locations, the price of goods go up, all this stuff happens, right? Taxes, all this stuff that has. And so our product went from $295 when I started up to where it's at now, which is about $460 for the product in my last company. And what I will tell you is people struggle to sell that product at $295, just like they struggle to sell the product at $450. And then even me a year ago, looking at what I charge for what we offer people now, I freaking struggled to sell it at that price than what it's at now, which is freaking 3x what it was.
Yeah.
Just 7 months ago.
7 months ago.
You know what I mean? So I'm excited to dive into today because we understand. And if you guys see me looking down at my notes, it's just because I wanted to bring you so much value. I have packed literally 5 pages of information in for you because we got to get at the heart of this thing so that we can see basically revenue start doubling and tripling without workload doubling or tripling. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to ask to up the price to become more premium. So let's first dive into the mindset shift to really overcome pricing fear. And so I think the first thing that I put down here, T, is like, number one is you are not your price. You are not your price. And I think that goes back to a little bit of what you were saying too. It's like, I don't want to be rejected.
Yep.
And I think it's so important for us to understand that your product and your service is completely independent, separate from you, right? You are valuable. You're a gift of God. Like you bring tremendous amount of value. Like you're liked, you're loved.
Yeah.
And whatever, rejection that we might get from our products or services, we cannot take that rejection on to ourselves. Yeah. So I think just getting to the point to where you understand that there is a separation that's happening there, and getting to a point to where if we do hear no, or if we don't attract the right type of client or customer that we want, or if they say, not today or whatever, but just know that your value is not determined by who can afford you.
Yeah.
And that was something that I even found myself struggling with 7 months ago. Right? But what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, even hearing it now, yeah, it's true. Like I'm going to use myself because I'm currently in the process of building myself brand.
Sure.
Right? Like Big T 760 or whatever, as like a content creator, but I also keep my business, right, Refined Marketing, completely separate.
Sure.
And even when I'm like approaching a client or I'm even like trying to close a sale, I don't like, I tell myself like, don't include anything that you've done personally.
Sure.
When you're pitching, right, like a construction company, or you're pitching, right, to do content for, somebody's podcast in Orange County or something like. Sure. Me personally, I look at, I just got to be very intentional with who I'm speaking with, right? Your audience and everything. But I think a lot of times for myself growing up, when I just started doing content, that was a big thing for me, was the fact that I didn't have those separate. So when I'm closing a client or I'm approaching a client with a proposal and they ask me like, well, what have I done?
Sure.
Immediately I'm like, okay, well, shoot, I'm going to pull up stuff that I've done personally, which is like nightlife stuff. And it's like, dude, it's not gonna look good trying to close a construction company. What is, Right. So yeah, I love that you brought that up because that is huge deal for me. I tried to keep both of them separate unless somehow, like this past weekend, I had an event that I was working. Somehow there's a way to integrate them both. I definitely try and keep them separate.
Yeah. I love that.
Yep.
But let's move on to number 2. So number 2 is price really equals perceived value. And this is what I was talking about when I started thinking about the Think Life is Different brand, excuse me, I really wanted it to be associated with premium. And one thing that I learned early on from being in the space that I'm in right now is perception equals reality,
Yeah.
right? So people trust and respect what they pay more for. Underpricing can actually create doubt. And you see that all the time. And the moment I raised my prices, T, is like, it was a handful of months ago, and I was on with these clients that I knew were interested in joining one of our private coaching communities. And I found out what the bottlenecks were in their finances and their investing and all the things. And I found out, and I could see how our company could really benefit them and help bridge that gap. It was so clear. And now we get down to, okay, what is your investment going to be?
Yeah.
And I remember pitching them the number, and they said, that's it? They said, that's it?
That's wild.
And they said, we were looking at another company that was 3 times the amount of you. And in that moment, I said, underpricing could actually create doubt. Like me giving them a price that was that cheap made me look cheap.
Wow.
Right. And they came to the table expecting that they were going to have to pay a lot more.
Yeah.
And now what happens is they walk away saying, well, maybe they're not that good.
Wow.
Maybe they're not as good as I thought.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to go with these other people because this guy over here is like a Toyota and these people over here are like a Tesla. Like, what experience do I want?
Yeah.
And I remember going to Amanda, my wife, and I remember telling her, like, okay, tonight we are up in the price.
Yeah.
We're up. It's scary and it's scary as heck, but we can't have that because we will start to turn away the ideal client or customer more than we'll attract them by giving them a price point of somebody we're not even looking to create a relationship with anyway.
No, yeah, for sure. And what's crazy, because even you saying that, you leave the client kind of wondering, like, well, and this is how I would picture it. The client's just saying, like, well, this dude doesn't even know what he's worth, right? Because they even if they compare your pricing to just one or two others that are in that same market,
sure,
they're kind of like, okay, well, they take the median of it and they're like, this guy's like the absolute cheapest route. Maybe he doesn't know what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's just not that, how you said, maybe he's just not that good. Mm-hmm. And so, like, for me, I consider myself an overthinker, right? Mm-hmm. I go crazy. So for me, I'm like, yeah, like when I hear, if I were to hear something like that, immediately I would have been like, dude, what the hell is wrong with me?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
And yeah, like, so I could only imagine, and it's crazy because there's so many things that play into it. Mm-hmm. But I think that for sure, that perspective right there is huge, because then you have those moments where, like, you know what, dude, F this, right? Like, you talk to Amanda and you're like, tonight is happening,
because they literally said, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, it shifted my whole perspective.
Yeah.
It shifted my whole perspective. Mm-hmm. Like, I came in with this self-doubt thinking, oh, if I'm the cheaper guy, then that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And what I walked away with is that underpricing myself is now creating doubt with my brand.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like, it doesn't even line up. I'm interviewing 7, 8, and 9-figure entrepreneurs. I mean, you see the caliber of people. Like, you're not getting on the Difference podcast unless you have a couple millions and you're investing millions, right? Like hopefully our audience really understands that. And so I'm able to sit in rooms with those type of people. But now when people want mentorship and coaching and direction, I'm only going to charge them a few pennies. Mm-hmm. It doesn't even, like, when I started thinking about it, I go, this doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't.
It doesn't even make
Not
sense.
at all.
So number 3, you guys, hopefully this is helping you. If so, go on and leave us a comment in the comments below. Number 3 is realizing that you're serving at a higher level. And when I started thinking about this, T, it was like charging more allows you to deliver better results. And when I was thinking about it, what made my last company so successful is we had a lower price point, but we had to have a ton of clients to be able to hit our revenue goals because our price point was only $400, right?
Yeah.
But if you have a ton of clients, then you're giving less of yourself to those people. So it'd be like when you and I go to the doctor, if you go to a doctor that's just turning patients and you just feel like, you're like, bro, you didn't even hear what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
Like I didn't
Exactly.
even get any time. Like
Yeah.
you didn't even take my blood pressure.
Yeah.
I had a whole bunch of other people taking my blood pressure,
Yeah.
my vitals.
Yeah.
Like, bro, I said 2 words to you.
Yeah. That's what they should do with this at school. Like at school, I would go get a headache or, be sick or something, and they'll give us like a little aspirin and send us on the way.
And then you're like, what just happened? So what I realized is like by charging more of a premium price, you actually get to take fewer clients. You get to have more energy and you get to give higher quality.
Yeah.
And once you start to do that, then not only do the people, your client or your customers feel premium, but now what you're going to start to have is repeat business.
Yeah.
Without you even having to do anything. We're going to have more referrals. We're going to have more 5 stars.
Yeah.
We're going to have more people sent to you because you're able to actually give a level of quality that you just can't give otherwise.
That's good. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so that was like, okay, I'm just breaking these myths, in the last 7 months. And I encourage the folks to really pick up on this. So number 4 is fear is a sign that you're growing. And it's so weird that I didn't pick up on this, T, because in my book, The 12 Shifts, what you guys see here, is I have a shift that I wrote that literally says, I have a tattoo here that says, without struggle, there could be no progress, right? And then I have a chapter in the book that says, growth equals pain. And when I say pain, I don't always mean like physical pain, like you're in pain. But what I do mean is you're uncomfortable. And so I think when we're getting to a place to where we're starting to analyze, like, man, I want to raise this price, and it's starting to make me a little bit uncomfortable, what that means is you're growing. And if you don't feel that discomfort, then you're not giving yourself a warning that you're ready to level up.
Yeah.
So that's what that's when that discomfort really settles in, I think that's saying like, move, right? It's time. It's time to do something.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's like, and I posted about this earlier, and I put a specific quote, and I remember you saying, I put like a little post in this morning before I got to your house, and I was just kind of putting the caption in and just reflecting and remembering where I was 7 months ago, right? And it reminded me of that moment where like I was just desperate, right? And there was something in there that like needed to happen, but it was very uncomfortable. Like, it was absolutely uncomfortable. And especially even now, like as of recently, right? I've come to a place now where I've evaluated my price point based off the level of quality I can deliver, right? Based off my value, based off the work that I've done, right? The places that I've been to, the people that I've seen. But it was definitely uncomfortable, right? Just like I said earlier, the just having those conversations are uncomfortable. But that definitely does. Yeah, no, that's super, super valid because like growing pains in general, they're uncomfortable, right? Like it's a part of life. You're going to have to go through it in order to really grow, right? It's a growing pain. It's very uncomfortable, but I feel like change is necessary.
I love that.
Super.
Right.
Super.
Yeah, it reminds me of like I was listening to the speaker, and I think it was Dr. Wayne Dyer, and he said that every living thing has the desire to grow to the largest capacity, except for human beings.
Wow.
Right? So we look at, my favorite tree is a magnolia tree. There's one sitting right outside this window. It's going to try to get as big as it can possibly get. Right? It's going to stretch as much as it can up to the sun for as long as it can. Like its capacity to grow, it will always try to meet that capacity. But for some reason, for us, somewhere along the way, we say, nah, man, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good, bro. Like, I'm good. And even if I want to grow, I'm so scared, I'm just not going to. Or even if I want to grow, I'm so comfortable, I'm just not going to.
I know you love touching on this, but it's almost like that parable, right? With the man with the talents.
Yes.
Right? The one that kind of just sat on it was just like, all right, well, I'm afraid of losing this. These guys are going out. This is like a modern day, like, way of looking at it, but I'm like, these guys are going out, they're stupid, they're gonna go and they're gonna lose whatever the heck they just got. But that one guy that was like, I'm gonna keep my one, I'm gonna sleep with it, I'm gonna eat next to it, it's going with me everywhere I go because I don't want to lose it. And I think his entire mind was on the fact that he didn't want to lose it, rather than thinking about the possibilities of multiplying it.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I'd say that because, I know you love that parable, right? And so I love it too. And it reminds me of what you just said right now, reminds me of that parable because, it's way comfortable.
It is so true. Man, we are diving into that. I hope you guys are listening. Okay, last one, myth buster, to really work on our mindset before we really dive into the tactics is number 5, ask yourself, this one hits home for me. Ask yourself, who do I need to become to charge this? And when I was thinking about this one, T, it took me back to a woman named Kim Fisk. She was one of the first mentors that looked me in my eyes and said, I want to challenge you to become a millionaire. And I was like, word, let's go. Because all I could think about was the money. Bro, she could not care less about the money.
Wow.
And she told me, she says, no, not for the money. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm trying to drive a 7 Series. This is before in my enlightenment period. And I started reading all these books and I read the, Millionaire Next Door. And I started to understand that your typical millionaires do not look the way we think they look. Right. And so at this point, this is early on, and I'm thinking about a 7 Series BMW because that's the car that my mom always talked about, right? That's how you're going to know if you made it, if you could buy a 7 Series. It's so stupid now, but that's where I was. And she was like, bro, no, not because of money. She said, because of who you will have to become along that journey.
Wow.
And I had no idea what the hell she was talking about. What do you mean become?
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? Like, I just want the money. Just give me the money. Let's skip all that other stuff.
It's not that deep. Like, what are you?
It ain't that deep. So, man, just think about it. So, like, I'm in this new industry, this new space, right? Think Life is Different is in this new industry, this new space. When I look at people that's in this industry that are charging 20 times more than what we're charging for basically the same things, I have to look at them, T, and I have to say, who have they become that I have yet to become?
Wow.
What value have they created that I have yet to create?
Yeah.
Right? What impact have they made that I have yet to make? What skills have they developed that I have yet to develop? What teams have they built that I've yet to build?
Yeah.
How many miles have they traveled that I've yet to travel? What risks have they forced themselves to take that I have yet to take?
Yeah.
What investments have they made that I've yet to invest? What fears have they overcome that I've yet to overcome?
Wow.
What are all of these things that have made them into who they are, or that brand into who it is, or that business into who it is? What are all of those things because it didn't start out that way.
Yeah.
It's all a journey, right?
Yeah.
So what have they done to become that in the process that we've yet to do? And Jim Collins wrote a great book called Good to Great. It's this big red book. And in that book, it talks about this. How do you start from this infancy and grow into something amazing?
Wow.
And so as you start to document, well, what have they done along that journey that we just haven't yet?
Yeah.
And now you can start to speed up time, because now it becomes less about even like the revenue and more about how can I grow myself, or how can I grow this company or this business or this brand to become that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Super powerful, man.
Yeah, no, and just I know that was like the last one, right?
Yeah.
But it's crazy because even thinking to that specific question, and that's why I love what we do for the podcast. I love the fact that it's called The Difference. I love that when that idea was thrown out as to like what's the difference, what makes you different. I love that entire thing because. And I don't think it's a coincidence that it's the last question, because I feel like those points leading up to question number 5 is what eventually draws them to realize, damn, I need to do all of this to eventually become who I'm going to need to become.
Yes.
That's what it leads to.
Absolutely.
That's that's what it leads to, because you can't, there's no growth, right? There's none of that without actually doing those steps and going through those things. And then you get to that place where, dang, okay, I had to do all of this to finally become who I needed to become in order to make 7, 8, 9 figures.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's when they say fall in love with the journey, right? Fall in love with the journey more than you do the destination.
Yeah.
Because that along that journey is the becoming. And in the 12 shifts, in shift number 1, but really in the new book, we talk about this too. In the Freedman and the Oak Tree, we really do talk about how do these people start out as sharecroppers that own nothing.
Yeah.
The seeds that they buy, they have to buy it from the landlord. The land that they lease, they have to lease it from the landlord.
Yeah.
The tools that they use, they have to rent them from the landlord. The landlord determines what time they wake up, what time they go to sleep. They have no inherent freedoms except for Sundays half the day, right? So how do you go from that to building something? I don't want to give away the book, but to build something that becomes generational wealth, right? And who do you have to become? And if you really fall in love with the story, you start to realize and understand, oh, these are the different steps along the way to where I literally have to become a new person to get this new outcome. I love that. Well, let's dive into the tactics, see, because I got 10 tactics and I kind of want to breeze through them, but I think that these are going to be foundational to your business and to your brand. Now that we've helped you with the mindset part, let's talk about the implementation, right? So number 1 is add value before you add the price. And what I mean by that is in your business, in your brand, if you're a coach, a consultant, it really doesn't even matter, but start to think about like, how can I bundle services or enhance the total experience? And what I mean by that is like, can you add a mini audit? Can you have bonus consultations? Can you have some extra deliverable contents and really position the price to increase the upgrade? And so when I started thinking about like, where is this showing up in my life? In 2016, I got into my first Tesla. This was like before people, like they're everywhere on the road right now, right? This was before you knew if you had this car, you either had some good credit or you had some deep pockets. It was going to be one or the other, right? And so a mentor of mine, he allowed me, I went to his house to go study. He had 2 cars there. He said I could pick the Porsche or I could pick the Tesla Model S. And I had been hearing about this Tesla thing. I went with the Tesla. He floored that mug. I fell in love.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what that did is that set a goal for me that I want to get my business to a place to where I feel like I've impacted enough lives to be able to get this car. Now, I could have got the car at that time. I did not deserve the car at that time, right?
Yeah.
So 2 years go by. I got, this is the first year where I got like all this excess money in the business account. I'm trying to figure out, bro, how can I get rid of some of this money, lower my taxes, all this stuff. So I go and I buy a Tesla Model X. And the Model X at this time was about $120,000. I think I paid $127,000, which I was heated because literally 2 months later, the dang car dropped to like $90,000.
Wow.
So, but I think about, okay, why could they charge a premium for that car? Like, what did they do? And I started thinking about it. So they added in free lifetime charging, free maintenance, the Tesla wall charger, and the ability to get those carpool stickers that not a lot of people were able to get at that time. Now everybody has them, right? So because they bundled all of these services, now it's made the car worth the amount. Because the car itself, you're like, man, I don't know if I want to pay $127 for the car. But now I start thinking about it, man, free charging for the lifetime of the car, bro, that's something, right? Free maintenance, like that's something. Like they gave me a wall charger. They just start throwing stuff on there that now made me feel like the value had been added in to justify the price point.
Yeah, even I think back now when I first started hearing about Tesla and all my buddies were talking about it, like the biggest thing for them was the fact that it was self-driving.
Yes.
The autopilot systems. Nobody had anything like it.
Yes.
Still to this day, I'm a firm believer. There's nothing else like the system that Tesla uses for your autopilot feature. Wild. So that's an even more added value. And the crazy part is, if you think about it, that's actually a monthly subscription, I believe.
Well, what's beautiful about what you're talking about is I remember even for my car, I had 3 upgrades, and each upgrade was $5,000. So I upgraded my rims, and I went to like 22 black charcoal rims. That was $5,000. The car actually came with like 5 seats in the back, but I wanted bucket seats. So to remove a seat was an upgrade of $5,000.
Wow.
Right. And then to have the auto feature that you're talking about, the automatic driving, was $5,000. So not only was it like the car price, but those upgrades, but those are upgrades that we can all put to raise our own prices too.
Yeah.
Right. How can we increase the value before you even increase the price?
Yeah.
To where our clients or our customers come and say, bro, I'd be a fool not to do that.
Yeah.
You make the offer so irresistible that it's hard to say no.
Yeah. So I want to pick your brain about something. I don't mean to get away from the tactics, but really quick, this is a quick little, like, I don't know, side plug, whatever we want to call it. I bought this tripod, right, that I'm using. And I remember I never posted it, but I recorded a video leaving Best Buy. And I was like, recording myself. I had it on my shoulder and I was like, yo guys, I just dropped $250 on this tripod. There's a lesson here. You're going to continue to buy that will either continue to put you in debt.
Sure.
Or you be more intentional about your spending and go and get something that's going to 10 times that.
Yes.
And it's crazy that I'm saying that because number one, I would have never, again, it goes back to the mindset, right? It was part of the first 5. It's part of the mindset, which eventually led to who you have to become, who you're going to become, which eventually ties into the tactics, right? I bought a $250 tripod. I didn't even think twice about it. I needed it. Why? Because I knew I was going to go and try and lock in another 3 clients. With that, my evaluation for my price, my ticket, right, went up too. The moment I bought my
Naturally.
cinema camera, I spent $4,000 on that. That's an $8,000 camera. And I was like, I need this. The moment I got all these things, right, and I applied them and I started moving with the tactics, my price went up.
There it is.
Yep.
Add value before you add price, man. So number 2, use tiered pricing. And this is something that we actually just talked about in my own business, but offer multiple packages, right? Offer 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different options.
Yep.
So the basic, the premium, and the elite, we see this all the time.
Yeah.
Like we just bought a new SUV for my wife. Every car we looked at had 3 different options of that same car. We brought the premier option, but they had like an RS, they had like an LT, they had like a like an off-roading one, and they had the premier. So they gave you different tiers based off of where you wanted to enter, right? But even those tiers, I'm sure, brought them a nice little profit.
Yeah.
So in our own businesses, we can do that. And when I started researching for this, thank you, ChatGPT, but it said, Jamil, most people choose the middle or the top tier if positioned well. And I think about Amanda's new car was the top tier.
Yeah.
Right? Even my car was the top tier.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and so I think that we'll see that as we start to do that. So
that's interesting. She said that. Interesting. I said she because
because my chat GPT is a she.
So it's interesting she said that because now that I think about it, it's so true. The bottom package, at least for me, makes me feel cheap.
As a consumer.
Yeah, as a consumer, right? And so, but if you flip that as an entrepreneur, from a business standpoint, you have your 3 offers, right? You run whatever kind of psychological thing you need to do to get the consumer to think that if you don't pick these top 2, your basic one is going to come obviously with a lot less.
Sure.
But it's very basic.
Which means you're basic.
Exactly.
And none of us like
exactly.
Basic.
I hate that.
Of course. It's like almost going when you go to a restaurant now and they have 4 different options for how you can leave a tip, right? 10%, 15%, 20%, 25%. I mean, I'm definitely not choosing the 10%, right? Like I'm choosing the upper tier because that says something about me inherently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with offering those different packages.
Yep.
Let's go to number 3. Number 3, anchor your new price. And what I meant by this is, you know, in sales and with giving different price points, there's a lot of psychology. So if you present your old price, then introduce a new one with all the value adds, then psychologically that does something, right? So if you're like, hey, this was $1,500. Now it's $2,000, but let me tell you all of the things that you get as an added benefit. And so now the price becomes extremely valuable because you've positioned it so well and you anchored your new price.
Good.
So like I even think about like stuff that we now offer, and it's more premium because 1, you get a team that supports you. You get the transformation in a shorter amount of time. It lasts longer. It saves you money in a long time or over time. And you get a return on your investment at such a high caliber that it only makes sense to pay the higher price. Right? So anchor your new price is number 3. Number 4, pre-frame the investment. Pre-frame the investment. And what I mean by that is like train your leads, your clients, your customers to expect a premium experience. And we can start training people way before we actually even have a conversation with them. And a lot of that training will come in the language that we use. So I wrote down here for you is use language like you get high impact results. You have transformational, ROI driven, right? But you want to use all of these in your marketing before you even get on a sales call, before you even submit a proposal. But your marketing has to be communicating premium. When they go on your website, it needs to communicate premium. When they look at your social media, why you think we have tea here? It needs to communicate premium. The way that I do my podcast with the people that I do it with needs to communicate premium. If you got free, like on anything, I would like even start to remove the free, and you want everything to scream premium so that you're training them even before you have the conversation. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Number 5, raise prices on new clients only. I think what I found in the last like 6 months is, I would say our founding students, especially in my inner circle, like what they invested for their experience is a lot lower than what, our new students are experiencing. But also, it should be that way. Like those are the ones that really kind of took the risk to move forward with us before we had something that was as freaking good as it is now.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can honor them by sort of like grandfathering in these folks while upping the price on the new clients or customers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep. So keep legacy clients at current price for now. We can slowly titrate them, which we've done in some of our nurturing groups. Like we've slowly titrated these folks. We've told them, okay, you're here for free, but it ain't always going to be like this. And so now that same free thing has a more premium price for being even in a group like that. So you can raise prices on the new clients while keeping those founding members maybe at the same price, and then start to slowly titrate them up to a higher price. And we see this too, not just in business, but in a lot of our students that hold real estate, right? So they might come into a property, a 20, 30, 40 unit apartment building, and you have a whole bunch of tenants that have been there for years and never had their rents raised.
Yeah.
Right. And so you might have 10 other units that are vacant. Well, move in these new renters at a new market rate while you slowly titrate all of these folks that have been grandfathered in to get them up to a market rate. And then that way you can start to raise the prices without having a lot of disturbances. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yep. So number 6, offer payment plans. When you hear that, T, what do you think? Offer payment plans.
I'm trying to think. Okay, so my mindset as a consumer on payment plans was only for the fact that if I wanted to pull out, I can do it. Mm-hmm. In terms, not payment plans. That's actually a month-to-month thing. Payment plan, right? For me, I think it's. You said something like about this earlier. Like, how are you going to serve your clients, right? And you've said this a few times, but I think ultimately it comes down to giving them an offer they can't refuse, right? So the importance of first offering your first ticker, your first offer. Then you have the packaging, right?
Sure.
Like at the very end of it all, ideally you'd want them to be able to take care of that, that price point or whatever up front. But I think I personally now I see the benefits of it. Because a lot of people in terms of consumers, especially for myself, my upbringing, man, I would love to have a payment plan on it. Cause even though I can't fully take care of it, financially, I'm just not in that position. I know for sure this is going to bring so much value to me just based off the conversation we've had and how you've been able to package it all up that I absolutely will do anything to make sure that I can be or sit in that room or be a part of that, whatever it is, or have that product. Yeah. Like I'm gonna make my iPhone perfect example.
Perfect.
We're
example.
financing
I was hoping you would
iPhones,
go there. Yep.
right? My phone's a $1,300-$1,500 phone,
Sure.
and I've probably paid it off maybe twice. I've had an iPhone ever since the iPhone 3G came out,
Right.
right? And every year up until maybe the last like 2 years ago, I never actually outright owned the phone,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I had a payment plan,
Sure.
right? And I had, financing or whatever it was because it got me to that product.
Yeah.
Now, this is where I think it's important, right, to have that mindset flip from consumer to, the business aspect of it, because that phone right there, my return, boy, and it's just my phone. I didn't even have a camera at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So just what I was able to do just in the palm of my hand, for sure. Yeah, it brought me in a bunch more. But I personally, now I see the benefits of having a payment plan.
Sure.
And I think it also builds that trust, like with the person that's buying that product. They're saying, okay, well, they're willing to work with me.
Mm-hmm.
So, why not? Let's just give it a shot. Why not?
Yeah, if we look at it, consumers, there's a book called The Psychology of Sales. And us as consumers, when we're looking at something, a lot of times we look at it based off of what we feel like we can afford on a monthly basis. So if I go buy a $70,000 car, I'm not looking at it as, oh, this is $70,000. I'm looking at it as, what is the monthly payment? And can I afford that? Do I believe that I can afford that? Right? So you can have now a higher premium ticket, whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
But because you're offering payment plans and us as consumers are used to buying things on payment plans, then we'll look at it and say, oh, okay, that's $1,500 a month. I can do that, as opposed to I have to buy this thing that's $50,000. Right? And I would much rather spend, the thing is $50,000, but I would rather finance it and end up spending $80,000 because I can afford the $1,200 a month or whatever it is. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you can offer payment plans to your clients and your customers to make it more digestible. Let's dive into number 7. Number 7, collect and use social proof. Show testimonials, results, and transformations to justify the price. If I tell you there's one thing that, and you're such a big part of it, but one thing that I've really learned is you cannot have enough testimonials. Testimonial in video form, testimonial audio form, written testimony, all sorts of testimony, a testimony on testimony. But people, especially now, have to see it in order to believe it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. There's so much sort of, you have to have so much consumer faith. And a lot of that faith comes into and we'll research everything.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Even now we research our own medicines. Yeah. We go to the doctor and tell the doctor what we want. Mm-hmm. Why? Because we've researched so many testimonials. We've researched so many. We've asked ChatGPT.
People wouldn't even know.
People would, yeah, exactly. Wouldn't even know. So, man, if you can gather up evidence and just have mounds of evidence, you can charge more.
Yeah. Yep.
That evidence comes with a dollar price. Yeah. And it allows you to have more of a premium because you actually have evidence. You have proof.
Yeah. And I think just to add to that, I think it's important to, so I grew up in this church, right? And my pastor, rest in peace, he used to tell us all the time, the best testimony you can ever give is just your life, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And what he meant by that is not so much telling people about your life, sure, showing them, mm-hmm. right? So yeah. I'm going to use you as a perfect example because you won't hype yourself up like this, but I will. I told you from when I first started working with you, for me, I paid attention to the fact that you weren't one of those flashy dudes on social media mm-hmm. in the online sales game or in the finance game that are trying to perceive a certain character, persona, whatever you want to call it. With you, it was just dude, This is you off camera, on camera. This is you with the fam, not with the fam. This is you with the multimillionaires interviewing them. With the homeless man. You told me you were at Starbucks one time for like 3 hours talking to a homeless man.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to add, yes, like, you know, all the social proof and having that, and it's super, super key, right? But I think what'll ultimately be a game changer and what'll lead up to who you eventually have to become is take a look at also too, like, are you walking that in your own personal life?
Right.
Because I feel like if and when you do walk in that, right, in your own life personally, oh man, that could only bring so much more value to an actual product or a business that you're offering, because you don't have to worry about overcompensating, right? Or you don't have to worry about trying to be somebody who you're not.
Yeah.
It's so much easier because you're just you.
You know what I love about that, T, is like in today's world and age, so we interview these founders who are incredible. They have these big companies with these big teams, and they have these products that literally, we were just in Vegas, and you know, they've raised tens of millions of dollars. And but in today's market, even that founder that has a great business with a great product, they still have to have a great personal brand.
Yeah.
And in that personal brand, they have to do what you just talked about, which is like walk the walk and talk the talk in that personal brand. And here's what's interesting about business today is if that founder does not have a personal brand presence, we lose trust in them.
Yeah.
We lose trust in them.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and so I think to go along with what we're talking about is, I think what you said, the key message is, man, walk the walk, talk the talk, and be a human being.
Yeah. It's that simple.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
It is that simple. I love that, man. So we are on, okay, so we just finished collect and use social proof. Number 8 is change the language from price to investment. And what I put down is, this isn't a cost. It's an investment with a return. And it doesn't even matter what it is. It could be a box of chocolates, right? This isn't a cost. This is an investment, right? It could be a freaking Valentine's Day card. This is not a cost. It's an investment into your relationship, right? If you're buying a vehicle, it doesn't matter what the product or service is. Start changing the language. And it's one way of doing what we were talking about earlier. It's conditioning, right? Like giving a new, like, words are powerful. Words are really powerful. That's why one of the best ways to make more money is learn how to communicate. Whether I'm communicating online or with my marketing, I'm communicating with my sales. I write books. That's a way of communicating. We're going to turn the Freedman and the Oak Tree into a film. That's another way of communicating. So learn how to communicate, but start teaching these folks like how to change and reframe the way that they're doing things. Number 9, we're almost at the end. Number 9, increase prices in small increments. This is something that I have done over the last 6-7 months I wasn't strategic about it. I fell into it.
Wow.
And I fell into it because I would get pissed.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know how else to say it. I'd be like, this is not it. Like, whatever this is not it. I know people are saying yes. I know, like, we're bringing revenue in. I know we're making sales. But the price that we have this position is not worth, it's worth way more than what we're giving, right? Like there has to be a match. And so it went from, okay, we're going to try this price point, almost like testing the market.
Yeah.
But I wasn't strategic. It just happened that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
But I want you to be strategic about it, right? So it's like, okay, well, let's test this price point. Okay, let's test it a little bit higher. Okay, let's test it a little bit higher.
Yeah.
And then it's just like moving it along to see where the market's going to respond.
Yeah.
right? So don't do it all at once, but just phase into it. And number 10 is position yourself as a category as one. And with this, I started thinking about these brands, of like Bentley, or these brands that you never see marketing for.
Yeah.
Like I don't see commercials about these people.
Yep.
Like I don't see them on QVC. Like I don't hear from them, but people are buying them all the time because they have some way positioned themselves as, that's the one. That's the one. And so when people see you as the only person who can deliver that specific result, price becomes secondary.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. You know, so something just hit me as you said that right now. I try and take a look at like a product, right? I can't think of one. Let's just say use an iPhone, for example. I love using that example. Like your consumer, your audience will sell them for you.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
When you create such a high demand,
oh my gosh, it's so true.
You create such a high demand, toilet paper, for example.
Yeah.
Right? Your customers, your audience, your avatar, whatever it is you want to call it, right? Your targeted audience. When you get to a place where you've now gone through all 10 of these tactics, the five mindset shifts that we started with, all of them, you get to that place where you eventually you have like just your entire framework and your workflow in place. Your team's all on the same place. Everyone's on the same page. We know what our product is. We know what it's worth. We know who we're reaching. I could only imagine when you get to a certain place where Apple is today.
Yeah.
Like, yes, they're pushing commercials, but let's be honest. In reality, they don't need to. Like, they really don't, because their audience or their consumer, right?
Yeah.
They'll do it for them.
They do it for you. To the fact that, like, okay, so Simon Sinek, he wrote this incredible book called Starts With Why. And I remember he gave a talk, and he was talking about how the iPhone Apple has positioned themselves so well that Apple people can't even relate to Android people.
Not at all.
Not at all.
I take pride in that.
And you will open up your Apple laptop so that it shows who you're affiliated with. And we'll do the same thing for the iPhone. Like, we will not cover that logo because that logo means something.
Oh, yeah.
So the question is, how can you get your product, your brand, your company to a place where you have positioned yourself as one? And you know who really bring this home for me is, and just in terms of creating themselves as one of one at such a big brand, is Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. This guy has made himself, there's no way he should be recruiting and getting players at the caliber that he's getting with his pedigree in terms of just coaching.
Yeah.
But he gets the highest people. Price is not an issue for kids to go play for him because of who he is and who he's turned his brand into. He has made himself one of one. So the question is, can you make yourself that demanding to where you're one of one, to where people gladly will not only pay you, but will go recruit other people to gladly pay you? That's when you know, man, you've really shown up and you've shown out and you've become who you needed to become to get to that point, right? I mean, that's the Louis Vuittons, that's the Apple, that's those type of brands that you really want to get to. So T, we're at the end of this thing, man.
And that's what makes you different.
That's what makes you different. That is the difference. That's the first question we are. What makes you different, and what is the difference? And I think that last point that we just talked about is the calling card. Like, can we get there? So, you guys, I want to leave you with a challenge. I challenge you this week to raise your price by 10%. And if you want to go even further, raise it to 15, 20%, and let us know by dropping a comment below what's one sort of unlocked takeaway you've gotten from this episode. And then let us know what you have decided to raise your price with. And email us, drop a comment below. And if this has helped you shift anything in your mindset or in your action plans, that I invite you to go on and click that like button, follow the podcast, whether on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all the places, and then let us know how these principles and these tools have really helped you get to the next level. Until the next episode, we are out. Thank you for tuning in to this conversation on the difference.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
Dude, that was good.